And we're back. So, I told you last week that I went to the dentist. Well, a couple days ago, I had a follow-up appointment, okay, because I had something put in my tooth, which is called a crown. And basically, that's just like a permanent tooth that goes around the rest of your existing teeth, because my teeth are pretty shitty. Or they were. They're okay now. But anyway, so a couple days ago, I go to the dentist. I see him. I'm like, hey, what's up, doctor? You know, not going to say who it is. And he was like, what's up, baby? How you doing, man? I'm like, I'm doing good. Cool, man. He said, what are you here for? I said, I'm here to get the crown. He's like, oh, shit, B, that's right. I'm like, yeah, that, you know, temporary, permanent. So he shows me back to the room, and there's a dental assistant. I didn't see her last week. I guess she's new or something like that. So takes me back to his little dental chair. You know, I lay back, I get comfortable and stuff, and he's turning on like some music, some soul music or something like that. And, you know, he's jamming and just relaxing. And the girl hands him this huge needle, okay? And sticks it with me once, and then after maybe about 5 minutes listening to music and just talking a little bit, I'm starting to get pretty numb. So he's like, all right, can you feel this? I said, no, not at all. He was like, all right, so we're going to start. So I'm sitting back there thinking, this is just another day in the dental office, you know, nothing special. And as I'm laying back, he takes off, not just with his fingers, he just reaches in my mouth and takes out the temporary. He sets it down. And he's like, hey, Katrina, or whatever her name is, could you go get his permanent? So she went back, got the permanent. We started talking for a second. Not even 30 seconds later, she shows up. She gives it to him, and the dental assistant, she's just like looking really intently, like, what's going on here? Okay, and I looked at her and I said, hey, I'm sorry, you do? And she's like, yeah, I just became a dental assistant. I got my degree and certificate about 2 weeks ago. I said, oh, congratulations, stepping up in the world and shit. I like it, very nice. He's just like, he looks at me and he says, so I need you to stop talking to her for a minute. I understand you like to talk a lot. I'm just gonna need you to stop talking for a moment. All right, open your mouth really big for me. So I open my mouth pretty big, and as I'm going like this, he's leaning into my mouth, and she's leaning the other direction, looking exactly at what I'm doing, trying to learn something. So I have two faces about this close. And, you know, he starts to put in the permanent, and then all of a sudden he says, oh, shit. Now, when you got two people up in your face, all right, and a piece of metal in the mouth, last thing you want to do is freak out. So I just go, oh. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. And he was like, hey, I need you to relax, don't move. So he took this other tool, he took it out, and then he reached in my mouth and he pulled out the permanent crown. It was back of my throat, like all the way around here, it was numb. And he was just like, you see that? You almost swallowed that. So he put it back in correctly, it must have slipped, and he just sort of like applies this bond. And, you know, so I'm squeezing on it and stuff, and he says, you know, you're lucky that you didn't swallow it. Most people swallow it. It probably happens maybe 5 or 6 times a year. And I look at him and I say, so what do you mean? What do you mean they swallow it? He's just like, well, they swallow it. I said, so how do you get it back? I mean, it's kind of like a dumb question, but what do you do under those circumstances? He's like, well, you see, you have two options. If you swallow a crown, these things are worth thousands of dollars, and with your insurance, you have to pay like 7 or 8, depending on your insurance, $100. So you have one of two options. Now, right at this point, I knew this was a learning lesson for the dental assistant, because at that moment, she really just sort of like perks up, and he's just like, you know, where's this going? He said, so you might not have learned this in dental hygiene school, but basically, this happens about 5 or 6 times a year, okay? I'm the dentist, this is the dental assistant, and just so you know, there's 2 options under these circumstances. Option number 1, you pass the tooth, you bring it back, we put it, well, she would put it, okay, in a sanitizer of some type, wait about 72 hours, and then you come back, we put it back in your mouth. Option 2, you pay the lab fee, okay, because it was our mess up, but the lab fee is like $50, and we're losing money in the thousands. Insurance isn't gonna cover it at that point. It's completely our fault. but we will give you a brand new one for like $50, but that's just the lab fee. And I said, okay, cool. And just for a second, I said, wait a minute, go back to the first option real quick. Explain that to me again. I said, what do you mean by pass it and bring it back? He looked at me straight up, and the dental assistant is like, are you shitting me? He says, so what you do is you basically shit it out, you dig through your shit and you take out your tooth, okay? You bring it to the lab, you bring it to the dental office and you give it to the assistant, which would be her, okay? And at this point, I'm still leaning back, okay? And she's still leaning in and he's still leaning in, so I got two faces right above me. And he says, we put it in a little, she puts it in a little sanitizer solution or something. About, 72 hours later, you come back, we put that shit tooth back inside your skull. I said, so you mean to tell me there's people walking around with a shit tooth? He says, yeah, absolutely. The second after I said, the dental assistant went, oh. And she didn't have her mask on, so I thought she was about to throw it in my fucking face. And he said, she said, that's not really a part of my job, is it? He was like, oh, you like getting paid, don't you? She went, yeah. He's just like, you gonna clean that shit tooth? She went, I hate my fucking life. So I said, let me ask you a question. Out of the 5 or 6 times, let's just say it's 10 times a year, how many times do people take the shit tooth over just paying $50? He's like, be honest with you, man, 9 out of 10 times to take the shit tooth. He said, times are hard on the boulevard, I said, what would you do? He was like, man, I take the shit tooth all day. I make a lot of money, but I ain't wasting $50. Fuck that noise. I said, what about you? And she was just like, I almost threw up in your mouth. You knew that, right? I said, yeah. She was just like, this is fucking disgusting. No, I'm sorry. I know I'm working, but no, I would take a brand new tooth. I'd pay $50. I said, I guess if somebody asks you why your breath smells bad, you could always tell them, hey, why's your breath smell so bad? Oh, it's because my tooth was in my asshole. Figure that one out. So if you don't want to have bad breath, in short, my advice is don't get the shit tooth. You will always have a shit tooth, okay? So in short, if you want better breath, even though they sanitize it, it might be a psychological thing. Just realizing that every girl you ever kiss or guy you ever kiss or whatever the case is going to have his tongue wrapped around that shit tooth, okay? Or whatever else is going on in your mouth, okay? So it might have a lasting effect, it might not. Again, my advice isn't doctor level. It's not perfect, but in my opinion, shit always stinks, no matter how many days it is. So I hope you liked my video. Hit like on that corner, I believe. All right, I'm pretty sure it is. I wish the best. Ask me any questions. If you like this video, definitely, again, hit the like button and subscribe. But if you have any questions, comments, or anything, I'm looking forward to actually getting enough of an audience so that I can actually answer comments, questions, etc. I'll even have a whole new channel about kind of like relationship / life advice, because I have been around the block and then some. So I think I can give you some really, really good advice as an outside source, or maybe absolutely shit advice with, at the end, actual advice. So thank you again. Love you all. Mwah. Peace.